Hello, lovelies. If you are joining me for my stitch along, welcome. This is how we are going to do the eyes. We're going to use the satin stitch. Here is a circle to represent the eye, and we're going to take our satin stitch from one side to the other. In this example, I'm using Perle thread and a large needle, but in the stitch along, we will be using one strand and a much smaller needle. If you struggle with satin stitch like I do, here's a few tips to help make it a little bit easier. I always try to leave a small gap between each of my first few stitches. It creates almost like a small framework for me to keep to. It seems easier for me to keep my satin stitches nice and neat if I've only got small gaps to work between. Does that make sense? The other thing to remember with satin stitch, especially in this circle shape, is it doesn't matter if your circle isn't absolutely perfect, because I'm going to show you how we fix that after we filled in this satin stitch. Don't worry about what the back looks like either. You can come from left to right, right to left. It really doesn't matter. No one's looking at the back. No one is looking at the back. You can use any stitch to fill the eyes. You can use stem or split or long and short, but the satin stitch works really well on these small areas. Just going to finish this off. And you can see that the circle has a slightly ragged edge to it. So we're going to go round that in stem stitch. This is the sped up version, because in a moment I'm going to show you in detail how to do a stem stitch. It gives it a much neater edge to it, as you can see. This is how we do a stem stitch. Bring your needle up through the fabric and go back down through the fabric a stitch length away. Don't take your thread all the way through. Bring your needle back up at the midway point in the very middle there, and then pull your needle all the way through. Go down into the fabric a stitch length away. Don't take your thread all the way through. And bring your needle up through the fabric at the end of that first stitch. And we're going to do that all the way along, always bringing our needle up through at the end of the previous stitch. Stem stitch works really well for outlining the eye because you can curve it. And I'm going to show you now how to curve it. So we'll take our needle down through the fabric a stitch length away, but slightly lower down than we would have if we were going in a straight line. Remember, bring the needle up through the fabric at the end of the previous stitch and go down into the fabric a stitch length away, just like that. Using shorter stitches will give you a much better curve. And this is what I used around the outside of the satin stitch. We are now going to add some light to the eyes to make them come alive. Using a light colour, either cream or white, it doesn't matter. Just do two small, tiny, straight stitches, just like this. I did these in a little V shape. But it's just enough to make those eyes come alive and give some expression to the face. If you take a look at any of my hyper-realistic work, you will see there are a lot more colours involved in the eyes than this one, but this is a good, simple way to do it. Happy stitching.